So I'm Haley Dickerson, Head of Marketing here at SciGlass, and your host for today's webinar, Beyond Baseline. For years now, the financial services sector globally has been a primary target for attacks by cybercriminals, largely because of the tremendous value of information available. In fact, financial services providers are hit by security incidents 300 times more frequently than other businesses. For community banks and credit unions, and those are typically locally owned and operated, this presents a huge risk. So I'd now like to introduce our guest speakers for today. First, we have Brad Kerlin, Senior Vice President and CTO at Fidelity Cooperative Bank. Once a hands-on engineer turned operational director, Brad has acquired over 20 years of experience working in the networks of numerous financial institutions. Prior to his current position, Brad was a CTO at Leader Bank, VP Network Engineering at Blue Hills Bank, and head of financial networks in the U.S. at Santander Global Technology. So thank you for being here today, Brad.
Thanks, Ellie. Glad to be here.
We also have John Morrow, founder of Practical Security Solutions. John began working in technology since the advent of personal computers and networking. Started developing his security chops long before security was, quote, a thing. He established Practical Security Solutions in 2009 to provide expert-level cybersecurity consultancy to his diversified portfolio. Prior to founding his own company, John was a successful director at numerous IT security groups, including Sage Data Security and Competitive Edge Services. So thank you for being here today, John.
Thank you, Haley. Appreciate it.
Last but not least, we have Nelson Ronkin. He is our VP of Product here at SciGlass. He is responsible for product strategy, delivery, and support. As a veteran of multiple startups, he has a deep background in cybersecurity, identity and access management, network management, cloud computing, and enterprise software. Thank you for being here today, Nelson.
Thanks, Ellie. It's great to be here with these industry experts.
So just a little tip before we get started here. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a speech bubble, as many of you have already found. And any questions that you may have throughout the webinar can be submitted here, and we'll address them during the designated question and answer time at the end of the presentation. Thank you. Before I hand the microphone over to Brad, I'd like to first provide a brief overview of SciGlass. The core technology of SciGlass originated from advanced R&D projects contracted by various government agencies. This battle-hardened technology has since been enhanced into a cost-effective, non-intrusive, and easy-to-deploy commercial solution. Over the last 3 years, more than 50% of computer system breaches were the result of an unknown threat. The victim list of such attacks, including this week, was Marriott, of course, Deloitte, Equifax, FedEx, Yahoo, Target, etc. And unknown threats bypass existing security controls, state-of-the-art SIEM, firewall, and endpoint security products that are currently deployed within an enterprise. With more and more devastating breaches happening every day, companies are now looking to artificial intelligence to urgently find a solution that will actually protect and defend their valuable data. SciGlass is a security analytics platform that utilizes advanced UI to analyze both historical network flows and real-time network data to detect and prevent unknown threats. Without further delay, finally, I'd like to turn it over to my friend Brad.
Thank you, Ellie. So, companies like Marriott, Target, and the other ones you just mentioned are huge companies with seemingly unlimited resources and massive teams to help keep their networks safe. And yet they're still struggling to protect their valuable assets. In my experience working in community banking, we have additional sets of challenges that I'm sure many of you can relate to. Not enough people, not enough money, not enough time, and lack of trained resources. The budget is getting pinched, and finding affordable, trained resources is a challenge. It is unfortunate resources are often not allocated until it is too late. SciGlass is an easy-to-implement network visibility and security tool. I am sure many of you have either implemented or thought of implementing a SIEM or NAC tool, both of which are very important components of network security. However, they are very expensive and consume a lot of resources to implement and continually maintain. SciGlass is a tool that is plug and play. It works at the network level using data flows to build a baseline and determine anomalous traffic. The tool is also cost-effective. With all the products on the market, it is often challenging to build a layered security plan that is easy to use and fits the budget. SciGlass can help. How does SciGlass work? The company hires the best data scientists, open source engineers, and utilizes Amazon Cloud Services, ensuring the intelligence and learning engines are smart, reliable, fast, and relevant. So why the cloud? The cloud is a perfect solution for this because it allows us to quickly deploy implementations for customers as needed and can be scaled accordingly. Unlike many other machine learning products where your data is correlated with everyone else's data to make observations and train the machine learning, SciGlass does not do this. Your data is segregated on its own implementation. Our data scientists do look across these implementations to fine-tune algorithms, but it does not make global decisions. This means all the alerts are specific to your organization. Even though many bank networks' traffic may look alike, each organization has their own unique applications and processes. SciGlass segregates your information and makes decisions based on your information alone. Today's IT infrastructure is much more complicated. Since the boom of the cloud computing and the Internet of Things, the network is no longer contained to just your physical walls. Today we have cloud providers and service bureaus. Just knowing what is inside your walls is not sufficient. SciGlass works much like a physical security system. You put sensors on your doors, you arm your ATMs and vaults, but for everything else there's a motion sensor. It helps you find the unexpected circumstances like a person dropping in from the ceiling. SciGlass helps you find the stuff you didn't know. It's not signature-based, relying on already known threats. Ask yourself this question. Today, would you know if you had one workstation every day talking to a country known for malicious activity? Would you consider this normal activity? Probably not, but you would hope to rely on a related security approach. On your desktop, you have antivirus and anti-malware, maybe even have next-gen desktop protection. Hopefully that blocked it. If not, hopefully the firewall IPS blocked it based on what it knew. But what if somehow it got past all of this? You don't know what you don't know. SciGlass will help you identify these anomalies. SciGlass is agentless and works at the network level. You don't have to tell it where anything is. It looks at pure conversation flows. When SciGlass does find one of these anomalies, it will let you decide what to do with it. Maybe it is okay that you have a PC talking to another country because it's a PC that's used for international trading and is being used for research. As you decide, your alerts will be training SciGlass about your business and your normal activity. The deployment is very simple and can be deployed quickly. Depending on the size and complexity of your organization, deployment is a single appliance that acts as a gateway to the cloud. If your organization does not have the skill set to investigate, we help you find managed services security partners to assist. I will now turn it over to John DeMauro. John assists financial institutions in the day-to-day challenges of cybersecurity. He will provide some insight into the regulatory and compliance challenges financial institutions face and how SciGlass can fit.
Great. Thanks, Brad. I'm going to take a few moments to talk about a few regulatory compliance challenges that community-based financial institutions face and how I see SciGlass fitting into that picture. If you're working in IT or cybersecurity at a community-based financial institution, compliance is obviously very important to you. However, and I've been saying this for a very long time, if you design your cybersecurity program to primarily meet compliance objectives, you will never be truly secure. But if you strive to be truly secure, compliance will mostly take care of itself. By being thoughtful in your approach to building out and executing your cybersecurity strategy, it is possible to achieve true security and compliance objectives simultaneously. This is an area where I think SciGlass can help. So let's start with a quick discussion of the FFIEC Cybersecurity Assessment Tool, otherwise known as the CAT. I'm going to assume that everyone in attendance is well aware of the CAT, what the CAT is, and why it exists. but I do want to point out a few important aspects of the tool and its use cases. One, the Massachusetts Division of Banking has required all of their supervised institutions to meet the baseline maturity level. Most institutions should find this relatively easy to achieve, given that much of what is required at the baseline level has been part of the regulatory and general security landscape for quite some time. I'm definitely not saying that there aren't some challenges, but most of what is described at the baseline level is fairly rudimentary. And while the CAT is not officially mandated by the federal regulators, it has unofficially become a requirement, as many of the controls described in the CAT were incorporated into the FFIEC information security booklets and general guidance that came out in September of 2016. I also want to point out that the CAT is not a perfect tool and does have some fundamental flaws. For instance, the inherent risk assessment portion of the tool is not well developed and does not truly depict the level of cyber risk at most institutions. The majority of institutions that we have worked with have been rated at the least or minimal risk level. Now, if that were true, there wouldn't be much to worry about, would there? But that obviously is not the case. Because this tool was designed to be used by all financial institutions, from very large to very small, I believe that the inherent risk rating is more of a comparative gauge for the regulators than it is a true representation of risk within an individual institution. If you truly think that your institution is at the least or minimal risk level, we need to talk. The maturity model proportion of the tool, however, is very useful. The maturity model can be used to effectively identify gaps in your cybersecurity program and can also be used to move your program forward in a strategic fashion. Given today's threat landscape, it is imperative that all financial institutions move their cybersecurity program well beyond the baseline level if they want to be sufficiently protected. I would recommend not attempting to move to higher levels of maturity in a linear fashion, which is something I've observed many institutions attempt to do. I think a better approach is to be selective in where and how you mature your program. I recommend focusing a lot of your attention on threat intelligence, cybersecurity controls, and incident response. So how does SciGlass align with the FFIEC CAT? Well, I think there are a number of CAT domains that SciGlass can help financial institutions to address, but the one that stands out to me is its ability to provide visibility into an organization's entire inventory of technology assets. SciGlass is a network-centric tool that doesn't require endpoint agents in order to identify and protect assets, and because of that, it is an ideal complement to endpoint-based controls and a truly effective addition to your defense and depth strategy. Once a malicious actor gains a foothold on your network, they may try to hide within your endpoints, but at some point, they have to traverse your network in order to complete their attack and attempt to exfiltrate data. Utilizing machine learning and artificial intelligence in an effective manner, SciGlass automatically discovers any asset that connects to your network, including rogue assets and IoT devices. SciGlass significantly enhances your asset management program by identifying and classifying assets. Asset values are automatically assigned based on network traffic and the users and services that are interacting with them. Effective asset management and protection, and in particular, the ability to effectively and efficiently identify and protect rogue assets and IoT devices has become a cybersecurity imperative. You cannot protect what you don't know you have. Compliance is knowing an asset might exist on your network. True security is knowing that it exists, what it is doing, and whether or not you need to be concerned about it. Attacks against IoT devices are predicted to be one of the next major attack vectors. Devices like IP cameras, smart TVs, and digital assistants already exist on many networks. Many, if not most, of these devices weren't built with security in mind and can easily give an attacker a foothold on your network and then become launch points to attack other more critical systems. Having insight into these systems and the activities that are being performed on them is very important now and will become more increasingly important moving forward as the number of these devices and the attacks against them increase. I'd now like to turn it over to Nelson to demonstrate how SciGlass can help you go beyond baseline compliance and keep your network truly secure.
Thanks, John. That's really great insight into why solutions like SciGlass are so important today. I will share my screen for you guys, and what we're going to do now in a live demo is take an inside look at how SciGlass protects critical network assets. We're in. SciGlass is continuously monitoring traffic on your network and transmitting the important parts of that traffic up to our secure cloud servers, where advanced analytics, machine learning, and AI techniques are used to identify anomalies and alert you to threats. Today, we're going to look at a use case where an attacker breaches a critical server on an internal network. In this example, this asset is an intranet server where critical information is being stored. You've all got servers like this. They're accessed every day by your users, and they only reach out on the internet to trusted locations. What we'll see here today is how SciGlass detects abnormal asset activity, tells us why it's abnormal, and alerts us to the problem. This type of attack can take many forms. It might start with a phishing attack that loads a zero-day malware onto a client system, enabling an attacker to breach your network, or it might be an unauthorized device connected to your network, something as simple as someone breaching your Wi-Fi, or something as complicated as a tiny device that's been snuck between your printer and a network outlet so that it spoofs the printer IP address and fools your NAC into believing it's authorized to be on your network. First, I'm going to show you how SciGlass cannot be fooled, since it's continuously watching activity on the network, especially around your high-risk assets, and detecting changes in their behavior. Then we'll look at how SciGlass can detect other network attack behaviors like probing and lateral movement to quickly identify where the attacker might have come from. So we start here at the SciGlass dashboard. It provides you with a quick look at the most important threats active in your network. We're going to start on the high threat asset section of the dashboard so we can see what assets might currently be under threat. Immediately, we see that our internal web server has a high threat level. Let's drill down for more information. The first thing we see about the asset is that the list of smart alerts that have been generated based on the threat to the asset are right here on the Smart Alerts tab. SciGlass also sends you email notifications for each of these smart alerts, so you'll know when they occur. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes when creating a smart alert. There may be terabytes of traffic and trillions of conversations on your network. SciGlass may detect millions of potentially anomalous events, and from that identify thousands of potentially suspicious behaviors. But as it recognizes the behaviors, identifies outliers, and factors in user feedback, SciGlass is going to eliminate huge amounts of noise and produce a small, manageable number of smart alerts for you to review each day. Each smart alert, let's drill down in, look at this one. Each smart alert tells us who the major actor is, what asset is under threat. You can see our internal web server, how serious the potential threat is, how confident that the SciGlass AI engine is that it detected a true threat, and what suspicious behaviors have been seen. Additionally, it provides you with guidance on what to look for and how to respond to the threat. So each one provides you with this what to look for information so that you can take action. This smart alert is telling us that SciGlass has detected a significant change in the behavior of our internal web server. It indicates that the asset's not acting as expected. The behavior tells us when the asset's not acting like it normally does, or when it's not acting as expected for the type of device it is. So what do I mean by normal? We track normal by maintaining a continuous baseline of activity, and we alert on a set of 18 different activity features when they show a significant enough variation. The major actor card here tells us about the primary target of the attack. As I said, it's our internal web server. It's a secure web server. It's serving up critical business information to internal users. This behavior is telling us that the asset has outbound communication with a much broader set of locations than it usually does. It's not based on any configured threshold or built-in list of locations. There's no configuration necessary here. SciGlass has learned from normal activity and detected a significant change from the normal. So right here, we see a large number of hosts, but cyber analysts like those at PSS can dig deeper into these behaviors to get much more information about the attack detail. If I click on, oops, let's go back to that. If I dig down into this behavior, let's go down into the behavior where your cyber analyst would look. The screen here tells us very specifically what are the things that we've seen. There's been data sent to a large number of hosts. There's been data sent to a large number of cities. If I look at the map, I can then see not only is the system communicating with places we'd expect them to communicate with, like Akamai or Microsoft, but they're also communicating with places like Kiev and Beijing and other places that are clearly abnormal for the system, and tells you really very clearly that there's some sort of compromise going on here. With SciGlass, you can quickly isolate strange network behavior like this from and to your critical assets without needing to dig through packet or flow logs or configuring tons of rules in a SIM. And by monitoring directly on the network, we can see things that endpoint security systems can't. Let's go back to the main SciGlass dashboard and look at a more complete view of what SciGlass can do. You can't only focus on your critical assets. You also need to be able to detect rogue devices or clients that may be compromised. SciGlass has been monitoring all the network activity, finding rogue devices, and alerting to unauthorized behaviors like scanning, lateral movement, and tunneling activities. Here in the Smart Alerts dashboard, there's a Smart Alert that quickly draws our attention because it's not related to a well-known asset in our network. The major actor is actually just an IP address. And we can see here that this is a probing and reconnaissance Smart Alert. Probing and reconnaissance behaviors are clear indicators of unauthorized activity in the network. If we drill down into this Smart Alert, we can see that this IP address is scanning another IP, looking for active ports to breach the system. This Smart Alert, we see 4 different scans, all originating from the same node, 192.168.1.126. Let's drill down into one of these to see more detail. Again, we see a map. The map tells us not only what the source was of the scan, what the destination of the scan is, and the events that were generated from it that tell us about the severity of it. The chart here shows us the range of ports that have been scanned. Here is at least 1,000 ports we saw in the details. For most situations, this might be as far as we need to go to address the situation. At this point, I might assess this IP to be immediately dangerous and isolate it. I can do that by going back to the Smart Alert and saying close this Smart Alert. But if I do need to research further, to do further investigation or forensic analysis, we can do that by drilling down into the raw data also. I click here on the View the Traffic button, and this allows me to search through the events and the network flows and the packet headers that have been captured on the network. Here I can filter traffic by time, by port, by conversation types. If I sort and just look at the 443 traffic here, SciGlass will tell me what is port 443, HTTP over TLS. And I can even click here where it will take me out on the internet to tell me more details about the protocol that I'm interested in. Just like with the asset detail, here if we click into this node, we can get more detail about this IP. Just like with the asset detail that we showed before, we can see detail about any IP address on the network. The total traffic tab here lets us see traffic trends, so you can look and see who this node is talking to and how active it's been. The other tabs on here give you a great idea of how SciGlass detects threats. For this asset, it filtered over 12 billion bytes of traffic in the past 7 days. Over those 7 days, it spit out only 5 Smart Alerts. It's like a big funnel. From all this traffic, SciGlass detected over 60,000 events, but from there, only 10 behaviors, and from those 10 behaviors, only 5 Smart Alerts. Along the way, 2,100 times, it got close to detecting a behavior, but decided that the evidence wasn't strong enough. And for full transparency, we give you tracking and displaying the reasons why these behaviors weren't weren't generated. So this is not a big black box. You can see what's going on inside of it. Lastly, let's look at a couple of the reports that SciGlass generates. This is the weekly summary report. It provides an overview of activity over the past week through a set of charts. The charts tell us about how many active nodes we saw in the network and how many active nodes externally we were talking to. It shows us how active the traffic was, so you can quickly see traffic patterns. And it's a variety of additional charts about the smart alerts and the behaviors that we see. The second interesting chart is our smart alert status report. It tells you about the threats that have been happening over the time period of the report, most frequently detected, and gives you a summary page. This red, yellow, green report shows you very quickly what are the most common problems I'm seeing, who are the major actors that are the instigation of those problems, and then the report continues on in detail about each one of these problems that's new and gives you the details you need to look further and to report on that. So that's a short introduction on detecting and managing threats to critical assets with the latest version of SciGlass. Haley, do we have any questions?
Thanks, Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Nelson. Here, let me look. Okay. We've got something. Okay, so one person said, what if I already have, quote, bad stuff? Will you guys find it? John?
Sure, this is John talking. The answer to that is absolutely yes. And I think that's one of the things that you're going to have to consider when you introduce any tool into your environment, particularly when it's looking at things that have never been looked at before, which SciGlass is going to do, that if something bad has been happening, it's going to find it. That bad thing may be something recent. It may be something that's been there for a while. And just this week, we had the breach at Marriott, and for 4 years, they have been under attack. And just recently came out that they implemented a tool. Actually, not sure if they implemented it, but what they're saying is that some tool recently discovered this activity. So the basic answer to the question is absolutely, and it's definitely something you want to be prepared for, and probably prepare senior management that when you bring in tools like this, that we may uncover, or you may uncover something bad, and just set the stage for that.